Hello and welcome to Coachcast by England Football Learning, the coaching podcast that brings you insight from people across the game. Today we're on the Pro Licence course to get some insight from the candidates here this year. Hi Vicky, thank you very much for joining us on Coachcast today. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Brilliant. How's today been? Been on the Pro Licence course, how's everything been going?
It's been good, a lot of information to take on board, but we've had plenty of breaks to consolidate the information and chat amongst the rest of the peers on the group, but it's been a very productive day.
And how would you say the Pro Licence is helping to develop you as a coach?
I think for me personally, when I come away to catch up with the cohort and with the tutors and to get through the course content, I always go back to my environment, my football environment, feeling confident, refreshed, and reflecting on the things that I've done on the course to try and put it into practice. So yeah, I think for me it's about it's grown my self-belief, it's also grown my awareness on some of the things that we've covered on the course.
And thinking about developing as a coach, what kind of skills and attributes do you think coaches need to be a good or even a transformational coach at all?
I think leadership is probably number one priority. You can be the best tactician in the game, but if you can't engage your players and get them to buy in and make them feel trusted, that you believe in them, then they're not going to run for a brick wall for you. And that's the same with your staffing group, how you give them clarity from day to day, how you help them and guide them through processes, and how you review those processes as well to look to better them weekly. I think that all comes back to your leadership styles, and we've covered quite a lot on this course on how to be a better leader.
Do you have any top tips or advice to help coaches you mentioned like that, getting that trust and stuff like that, and do you have any like top tips to help coaches get that with their players?
Consistency. If you keep changing your behaviours all the time, it's very hard for people to follow. So consistency is one. Trust comes from giving people ownership and allowing them to see that through. So, if I'm trusting you to take the set pieces, then I'm going to allow you to practice them and get better, and then we'll review them together as a group. I think that's really important to give ownership to your players and to help them reflect on the work that they've been given ownership on.
And do you have any advice? You mentioned obviously a bit leadership as well. Do you have any advice to help coaches to be that leader figure?
I think you have to know yourself first. Leadership at the top level in a high-performing environment where it's result-driven can be difficult under pressure. But if you know yourself, you know what you stand for, you know why you do what you do and why you get out of bed, it helps you then to stay consistent with your behaviours. If you go through a run of losses and there's pressure from fans, from the board, from your players, sometimes people can change their behaviours under pressure. So if you know yourself, you can always go back to those consistent behaviours and your worth and your why, and then that'll help you lead the people that are following you.
And what are your behaviours and your values that are your go-to?
I'm an empathetic leader, so I'm a green person, so I'm very much on feelings, how people feel. I'd say, a pick up on the social cues in the room quite well. I don't necessarily enjoy having difficult conversations, but in this job you have to have them. So if I'm going to have a difficult conversation, I'll be very much well prepared to do that, because it's not something that I find easy to do, but it's part of the game. You're going to have to drop somebody, you're going to have to release somebody, so you've got to have that in your locker. So I'd say the people skills is definitely one of my strengths, but with having good people skills, you've also got to be able to deliver difficult messages to people as well.
How do you approach doing that, would you say?
Being prepared, gathering up as much information as I can, sometimes evidence of data or video footage of performances, but you have to have really good listening skills as well to understand where they're coming from when you sit in those conversations with people when it's going to be a little bit prickly, but you can't take anything personal. A player might dislike you one week because you're not in the starting 11 or you've said something that they necessarily don't agree with, but the next week they love you again. But so you can't take things personally. It's a tough environment that we work in, and you've just got to make sure that you stay true to your values and your beliefs.
Now, Vicky, you've worked with younger age groups, but also at grassroots football as well. Are listening skills and also kind of that empathy skills like so important for coaches at all levels?
I think it doesn't matter what strand of the game that you work in, listening skills is important because you need to understand why they do what they do, what they want to achieve and how you're going to help them do it. So it doesn't matter whether it's grassroots, whether it's in the WSL, you have to be able to listen to the people that you are leading.
Kind of like reflecting on your experiences of coaching, if we go right back to the start, the very first experience, what was that like? And then what have you learnt from that and how's it kind of shaped who you are today?
I think it was my first step into coaching was helping people enjoy playing the sport that I loved. It was just about enjoyment. And as long as they had smiles on their faces and they was laughing along the hour session, however long it was, then for me that was job well done. And then the little bit on the coaching journey that you go on, then you can teach them how to correctly connect with a ball in a pass or about spatial awareness, and you just build the layers on. But at the very bottom, it's about just enjoying it. And you can't move away from that enjoyment because even at senior level, when it's result driven, players still want to enjoy turning up and playing football. So you've still got to try and find that way of having the organised fun within your sessions.
I suppose it's about knowing and understanding your players, but do you have any general top tips to help coaches keep their sessions fun and engaging?
I think it's the second they walk out onto the pitch, what do you do in your activation? Some people like rondos. Our physical performance coach played netball, where they just it's an invasion game, but it got really competitive because the one thing we all have in common in our environment is football. But when you actually take them away from football and put them in another sport, it's interesting to see how that competitive edge that dials up. So I think you can be innovative in the way that you use different sports, giving them a bit of ownership. Do you want to go and do the rondos? Go and get them going. There's loads of different things to keep it fun. But again, people in our environment are competitive. So as long as there's some element of competition that's healthy and controlled, then you're always onto a winner.
Oh, brilliant. Thinking about your coaching journey, what would you say has been the most challenging thing that you've had to face and how have you managed to overcome it?
I think when I first stepped in as my first position as a manager, I was the youngest WSL manager in the league. And I didn't know what I didn't know. And I didn't realise the power of leadership. I didn't realise how to manage my own behaviours and emotions when under a lot of scrutiny from fans, from social media, how to protect my family from that as well, because it upset them when they saw negative things in the press or in the media. So I think that's probably one of the difficult things to face. However, I'm really grateful I went through it because I've got good coping strategies on how to deal with it, and I learned a lot from what I would call a good apprentice in the game to where I am now.
Is there any chance we can have, you've got like some of those mental strategies that you can have a bit of a brief insight into?
Yes, I work with a mentor. I've got a mentor that helps me, that's from outside of football. So she helps me reflect on myself, my visions, values and beliefs so that I know who I am and what I stand for. And I think your mental well-being is really important. To actually find ways to escape the game, to top your energy levels back up. I call it putting the football away. Normally that for me, that's on an international break. I'll have a couple of days where I'll go on long walks or I'll go and play golf or just spending time with the family just to top my energy levels back up. But I think in my first managerial position, I got consumed by trying to do so much that I never actually stepped back to smell the grass and look outside the window a little bit to see what was going on.
Okay, and what piece of advice, so with all your experiences you've had so far and being able to manage scenarios, what piece of advice would you give to your younger self now to help them prepare for the world of coaching for the first time?
I've been through some challenging times that felt like they were going to last forever. But what I will say is tough times don't last forever, but tough people do. Because no matter how tough times will feel, whether that's scrutiny from the press, whether that's just results, whether that's questions from players or self-doubt, those moments don't last forever. And if you can get through them and reflect, you'll be better for it. And I can certainly say through my journey, I'm a lot tougher through those tough times that I've been through, and I'm very grateful for them.
And just to wrap things up, do you have any advice for people who might be thinking about starting to coach for the first time, and any advice, say, like what kind of impact that they might be able to have if they decide to give coaching a try?
Yeah, I think if you're getting into coaching, do it for the right reasons, because you actually enjoy it and you want to help develop people. And don't just jump for your coaching qualifications. It is part of it, but just make sure you put in the hours on the grass. I see a lot of young coaches now that want to get the level 1, level 2, level UEFA B, UEFA A within a short amount of time, but actually don't put the hours in on the grass. And it's so important, because that is just where you learn mistakes from sessions, challenges from players, and that will make you better with your interventions when you come to at the higher level.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, Yaya. How are you?
Very good, very good. Thank you. You?
Yeah, all good, thank you. How's today been on the pro licence?
Actually good. Learning a lot. Getting a lot of information. And I think pretty positive.
Thinking about your experience on the course as a whole, how do you think that's developed you as a coach?
Well, as a coach, I think I get to know myself more, you know, and during this course I've been involved for such a lot of months. I think it make me clear my idea, and understand myself more, and just shape a bit more my philosophy on the games, and because now the games is moving so fast and different way, and you have to adapt.
And thinking about developing as a coach, what skills and attributes do you think make a good coach?
I think for me, a good coach is someone who is willing to understand the change and understand the development. Because in the modern game now, I think, in my opinion, you have to adapt understanding and try to execute it. You have to be flexible, if I can say that. Because it's not that easy. Because the way the game is going forward now, I think, in the future, if you're not willing to develop, understand, and adapt, it's going to be very, very difficult.
Do you have any advice to help coaches to be able to be flexible and adapt at all?
Well, I think during my time as a coach, since I retired, I think I've been able to touch a lot of country just to learn and develop. I think for me, the key area is going to be try to be yourself, and approach it as normal as possible, because this industry now is very, very difficult and complicated, and as a young coach now, for me, it's just try to enjoy, be myself, and try to do I think it's simple.
And thinking about your coaching journey so far, what do you enjoy most about it?
During my period in this country, I've been, like I was saying previously, Ukraine, Russia, England with the academy, Belgium later, now Saudi. I think what I try to understand during all of that is that what can make me a top coach, and if I can say better person, because during all these periods I tried to learn myself, because it was not that easier, because you know, being in this kind of different country, being in Russia, you know, is different language, and the skills, everything like that, helped me a lot to learn about football. Is a universal games, to be honest, and you can get players from around the world, and if you can able to communicate it properly to them and get them your philosophy across their minds clearly, I think they will deliver and you can be better.
And do you feel your experience in different countries has really benefited you early into your coaching journey?
I think so, because all the clubs I've been touching, be able to work with European, Asiatic, and different players for around the world. And I think the language can be a key role sometime, you know, because in terms of the group, when you talk to the group, it's okay. You can use one language, but typically, personally, when you want to have a face-to-face one players and you have a difficulty in a language, if you're able to communicate in his language, it's gonna be much easier, and you're gonna have much time.
Thinking about the first time that you started coaching, what was that experience like, and how has that helped shape you as a coach now?
No, I think it was different. It was different because being players, and after being players, retire, be coaches, is like I have to give some time recommendation. I have to be able to deliver position. I have to be able to be patient with the players. It was quite difficult because first of all, in the beginning, I was quite demanding, quite impatient, and quite difficult at times with the players. I didn't understand, because for where I come from and because as well for the quality I got it when I was playing football. I was thinking like the way I understand it is gonna be much easier for them, but I was wrong. And that took me time, and I learned that when I was in Tottenham at that period, because by the way, I used your line to say thank you to the Tottenham Football Club. They've been brilliant when I was there. And going back to the topics, is that for me helped me a lot in the sense that I have to understand the player, the way they work, and be patient and try to guide them. And if we have to repeat, I can repeat 100 times. But before I didn't got it. Sing the first time, but now with more experience, I got that now.
Do you have any advice to help coaches kind of understand and get to know the players?
Well, I think the advice I can give it to them is that be patient, be willing to adapt, because sometimes it might take time, and the patience is very, very key in this work. But fortunately, when you get to the first team role, as a manager, as you know, time is not the big things. You know, his points, his winning game is important, and it's different. You know, it's totally different. It's where your approaches are. If you want to go in academy roles, or a club will give you more times, or a clubs will gonna get you. You know what I mean? Straight and there. You know, just judge you and your game out, game in. And for me, it's just patience, understanding, and adaptation. That's going to be key.
And what would you say has been the most challenging part of your coaching journey so far? Or was it the transition from player to coach?
Definitely. Now you get it. It was a transition, because when I was playing, it was easier. And I was by myself, understanding, looking after myself. Now, as a coach, you have to look after staff, look after 25 players, with different culture, different background. You have to be able to sit down sometime and be careful what you say, pass the message across to make sure all the players understanding similarly. And the most complicated task I have at one time was challenge myself. I try to regroup all the players in one space, and I show them something I feel it was the right things, and everyone have a different view of it. There was like some of them were saying they see that, and some of them will see different things, and I was confused at that time. I was like, how am I do that, you know? And it's good. That means like I have a lot of work to do, and understanding is very important. Everyone cannot buy with your tactics or philosophy. What you have to do, you have to make sure. If you have to take your time, or maybe get bit slower, to make sure they understand where you want to go with them.
What piece of advice then, to wrap this discussion up, would you give to someone who's at the very start of their coaching journey?
Well, that's a good question. just in terms of when you retire, for example, from football, professional late, or you start in your journey, just be open. Just try to get involved much as to get the player involved as much as possible to get their understanding, because some of time I've been across player where they was in the back of the group, and when I just tried to explain the session, they all said yes, but when the session started, some of them in the back was like still don't understand. And sometimes the demo is really important to show off first, or maybe started the practice. You have to be involved in that, give them a momentum, that give them the idea with where you want to go. And I think what make us proud as a coach is the player. When the player understand And when they develop and when they progress, that's what makes us proud. And I think for the beginning, you just have to be clear on that point, in that sense, patience, adaptation, and as well, make sure they understand it, what you want it.
Brilliant, Yaya, thank you very much. Now, a slight change of scenery for anybody that is watching this rather than listening, and that is because we've bumped into our very own Ian Bateman, who is a learner on this course. So hi Ian, welcome back to Coachcast, because it's been a little while since you've been on. How are you?
Yeah, no, really good. It has been a little while. I've been missing you, so yeah, we're back at it. We're back at it. Can't wait. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Thank you very much for your time today, and I appreciate obviously your time working and then also being on the pro licence. I suppose we'll start there. How is the pro licence going?
Yeah, it's been brilliant. We're coming towards the end now, but it's kind of an 18-month journey. But no, it's been terrific. It's been really, really good. I think some of the tasks that we've been set, sort of on course and off course, have been brilliant. But I think most of all, it's the other people that's on the course with us is the bit that probably makes the course. So you've got people coming from different corners of the game, a lot clearly working at the I want to say it's top end of the game is probably the wrong word, but actually real specialists in the field, whether the managers, heads of coaching, working in the male game, female game. So that mix of people that's in the room is what really makes the course, I think, really quite special.
And is that the main thing, like kind of your favourite part of it, or is there other tasks that you might have done?
Yeah, we've been sat some really good challenges across the course. So we had one particular task around sort of looking at how you're going to spend money and build a squad over a period of 12, 18 months, and basically set the challenge. You were given all the data that was possibly out there, and then had to make the decision and present back to the board. So that was particularly good, and I think the task was really good, working with people that you'd never worked before, trying to work on utilise everybody's strengths that was in the room, which you would do in your day-to-day life, and I think that's what the course really brings. It's about that leadership and management. When do you, how do you sort of work people out quite quickly and figure out a way to get to the results that you want to do, and everybody works differently. So you've got to understand that quite quickly. I think the other thing is going away. So having it locks down time for you, because I think everybody's really busy, but it forces you to lock some sort of time away to go after certain things. So go and see some high performing teams operating. I went up Helvellyn with a company called WAC2. With 9 Premier League referees, and it was fascinating, seeing WAC2 operate, which was the main thing, but actually being and seeing 9 refs and how they think and how passionate they are about the game and how fit they were. It was like there was loads of stuff which I wouldn't have otherwise gone out and done that. So again, it kind of forces you into certain lines which you probably wouldn't normally do. So
loads of experiences there on the course. How would you say that those experiences have helped you to develop as a coach?
Yeah, I think it's particularly helping with my role at the minute is a lot more around managing a team of coach developers. It's not much different managing a team of 18 people than you would a squad of 18 players. It's the same sort of thing. So it's really got me thinking about my leadership and management styles. How do I get the best out of those individuals that work within the team? Clearly it's in a football environment anyway, and at the same time a lot of the delivery that's been done has been around football, so it feels like it's a really good fit for me. So it's leadership and management based around football at the top end, so it's like keeps ticking all the boxes for me.
Speaking as developing as a coach, or in your point, a coach developer, what are the key kind of skills and attributes do you feel that coaches need to be a good coach?
Yeah, so I think this is at any sort of level. You need to know about the players that you're working with, because everybody's different. So knowing John or Joanne, absolutely, and it's the football's just part of it. It's we're trying to develop individual people as well, and then you've got to know coaching. So how do you get those? If you know about the game, then how can you get those messages across? The bit that kind of changes is the environment that you're working with. So I've worked in grassroots, I've worked in professional clubs, I've worked with England teams, I've worked in disability. So actually sometimes that context just kind of changes. So what you're going to dial up, dial down at the right time. And that brings you back to then about understanding yourself, about actually what am I good at, what do I need to bring to the party on this day that, again, I could have worked in a preschool program at my own son's primary school, and then in the afternoon I was working with under 16s at Bolton in a professional club, and it was like what you're dialing up, what you're dialing down at the right moment in time. So it's just having those skills, really.
There might be people who are just starting out on the coaching journey, for instance, whether it be the Playmaker course or going on to their I2CF. What sort of, like, Joe, if they've not necessarily been involved in the game, do you think that there's potentially transferable skills from elsewhere in their life experiences that can actually help them to get into coaching? Yeah, no, absolutely. I think parents are really well placed for taking on coaching. You know, it's no different. You've just got loads more sort of young players generally in front of you than just your own children. I think if you're just starting out, it's about just making. Would you want to be the player in your session? That's always the question that I would ask myself. Because, you know, are we doing things that I would want to do? And then that's generally about finishing, scoring goals and stopping goals. You know, and it's as simple as that. Or is it a game? So if players are asking for a game, you've probably not given them enough of a game. If they want a game at the start, give them a game. And if they're happy and they really enjoy it, it should be that best moment of the week for that child. You know, are they running across the car park to get to your session? So I always think about, what did I want when I was a young player or even an older player? It was like, would this really engage me? And if you do that, a lot of your troubles are taken care of, because the kids are having a load of fun and probably scoring loads of goals. I say everyone loves scoring loads of goals, don't they? So kind of that engagement piece, is that close to your coaching values? And if so, or if not, like, what are your coaching values? Yeah, no, the players, it's all about the players. I think everything that I do is around the players. Again, I think back to, you know, you have got a bit of a duty to clearly make the players more skillful, make them the best that they can be. You know, that's absolutely critical, but the being player centred and putting them at the heart of what you're doing. You know, it's not about me as a coach. Clearly the coach, if results at top level don't go well, then, you know, clearly there's criticism on the coach. But I think it's got to be players first, and really putting them at the forefront of what we're trying to do. And that's not giving them free rein that they do whatever they want. Sometimes it's what they need rather than what they want. But actually, they've got a voice in all this. They clearly need to play a part in their own development, which is something that you want to drive and make them better at. What would you say you most enjoy about coaching? Do you know what? It's probably being around people and being in that environment where you can, and this is being in that changing room with the players, and this has been at any sort of level. And is it banter's probably the wrong, but that spirit of football, feeling that spirit of football, going into battle with your team, alongside your team, try and help them to be the best that they can be. That's a real driver for me. And then clearly there is a buzz about winning and that part of competition, which I think is why everybody plays. You know, so and it is a tough game. You know, it is tough to be able to deal with a ball that's moving around and people's trying to. It's a tough game, but then helping the players get better, and then seeing those players come through and develop over time is brilliant. And I think when I do look back, again with some of the England players that I've worked with in disability, seeing those guys having debuts at 16 and 17 years old. And now 8, 9, 10 years later, you know, they're playing and the kids are on the court at half time. You know, just seeing those people get married, have children, go from young men from children basically into men. I think that's as much as anything that happens on the in terms of winning. So it's nice just having, basically the power of coaches is that you can have such an impact on players' lives. Yeah, huge, and I've seen that across, again, the grassroots. If you're in Asda and there's lads that that were, nice to see you, and they're now pushing their 30s. It's brilliant,
because you've given them some real traits to, you've given them some things and hopefully shape their life and give them some really positive experiences and opportunities. I think that's the big thing. You can provide those opportunities for the players that help them grow in so many ways.
Earlier you mentioned like you've worked in quite a lot of different areas of the game. Reflecting all the way back to your first experience of coaching, what was that like, and maybe what did you learn from that that's helped you to develop moving forward? Yeah,
so my background, I've been fortunate. I got into coaching, it's probably the best part of 35 years ago now, which seems an awful long time, but I can still remember, did my prelim badge, but then that first opportunity was given by a guy called Tony Whelan, who's at Man United. And Tony ran some soccer camps, and like most new coaches, it was like, well, here's it, I'll have the under-7s for a day. And it was like, oh, crikey, I didn't deal with this on my prelim. Spent the first half an hour doing shoelaces. As I was doing them, there was probably mayhem going off all around me. But again, go back to what happened. Tony says, look, just put them in a game, they'll sort themselves out. Lo and behold, absolutely the best bit of advice I could have probably had. So it was 5v5 or 6v6. And it allowed me to settle and gather my thoughts. But do you know what? Understanding how to manage and entertain's probably entertain, or was it survival for myself? Getting through those first weeks or first days, first hours, first minutes was critical. And what it made me understand, if I can control or sort of control that group, actually dealing with older players, dealing with adults later on was a walk in the park. Absolutely was.
For anyone who's approaching maybe maybe it's this weekend or maybe it's next week, a bit of training rather than match day, anyone who's feeling maybe a little bit daunted by going into coaching for the first time, do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, plan. Have a bit of a plan in your head. But then again, and I think this is where it's really hard. I think as you get more experienced, there's not many things that you haven't really seen before, or you pick up on the cues really quickly. If someone's quite not engaged or whatever, so you learn that over time. That's really difficult as a novice. But I think what you can do is keep things moving quite quickly. Have 3 or 4 things in your mind that you might want to do. I would definitely write it down. But again, that's a bit of a personal thing. Even now, all my sessions, I'll have a plan about what I'm going to do with some sort of key messages that I'd want the players to take away, or key things for individuals within that. If I didn't have a plan, then I know it's probably going to go all over the place. So, and then just be adaptable, that if something's working, you might want to carry on a bit longer. No problem with that. And if it's not working, shut it down, go to your next bit on your plan and just see how that works. Because what works one day might not work the next. So just don't write it off in after one go.
So many great tips there for coaches to take away. Would you give any other advice potentially to kind of yourself at the start of your own coaching journey?
Yeah, there was enjoy yourself. Enjoy it. It's not serious. It's, you've got to be having fun as well as the players have been having fun. I think what it did at the start of my journey, it really sort of just triggered something in my mind that I thought, this is what I want to do, which I probably wasn't expecting. And to be fair to Tony at that time, he gave me some outstanding advice. And to be fair to him, he gave me my first opportunity. He picked up the phone and phoned somebody else at Bobby Charlton Soccer Schools to get me a second opportunity the following week. And his kind of thing was, like he says, football's a really small world. He said, what you've got to do is make sure you work super hard and don't do anything daft. Do not let me down, was his words. And I still see him now, and it still makes us both chuckle that actually, yeah, I'm still trying to not let Tony down, and I've got that running in the back of my mind. Yeah, I think I just loved it. I absolutely loved it. Still do. Still love the game, and I think it's that having that passion and that energy, bring that to the party, because actually it's the most magnificent game in the world. So let's try and help players that get that sort of that spirit of football. Let's get them feeling that and hooking them in forever.
Have you, well, I suppose, what's kind of been the most challenging part of your coaching journey and how did you overcome it?
I think like a lot of young people, you want to rush through things at the start, and then I realised then probably actually slow down a bit, and I did slow down. So I did lots of work in schools, did lots of work in grassroots did lots of work all over the world. Really fortunate with particularly the Bobby Charlton stuff took us all over the world doing things. So you saw lots of different ideas and places and cultures and what have you. I think one of the big challenges was then not being an ex-player going into the world that I work in now. So I can't put my league appearances on the table. I can't put my England caps on the table. But I think that just drives you on to be even better at what you're doing. So I did understand about players. I did understand coaching. And I knew that I had to sharpen up about learning about the game. So then that makes you be a student of the game. So I think you've got to be self-aware enough to understand, look, I'm really quite good at this, but I need to work at that. So, and then, you know, if that's a challenge and you go after the challenge in the right way, well, actually, there's nothing to stop you being an expert in that particular field as well. And I think that goes for everybody. You know, recognise what the challenge is and then take it, you know, embrace it and go after it, front it up and let's, you know, go and try and fix the problem.
Brilliant. And now finally, to wrap things up, 'cause I appreciate you taking your time away from the course. I'm going to kind of put you on the spot a little bit here. You've given us loads of great advice, but if you was to kind of rank your top 3 coaching tips, what would they be? Yeah,
I'm probably going to bring it back to player coaching and the game again. I think it's know your players, okay? Because if you don't know your players, then it's really difficult to. If you don't know how they tick, it's really hard to know how to push the buttons. I would say, in terms of coaching, play loads of game-like stuff. So make sure that it's opposed, directional, it's got goalies and it's got goals. You know, if you've got a set of goalposts there, make sure that there's finishing going off in it, because that's the bit that everybody loves. You know, whether it's scoring goals or stopping goals. And then the last bit is understand what's happening in the game. You know, we're surrounded by the games on TV like all the time. You can go on Twitter, people will listen to, you know, to this sort of thing. There's so much material out there. Soak it in, but then you've got to filter about what's right for you. But just study the game a little bit. And the last bit really is, if you're working with younger players, it's not about 11v11. Let's not rush to there. Let's really look at like the small numbered stuff, help the individuals within it and understand that their game, you know, game for younger people is a bit different than the game that we see on Match of the Day on a Saturday night.
Yeah, absolutely. A really good tip to end on as well. That small-sided games, more touches, more involvement, more enjoyment.
100%.
Brilliant. Ian, thank you very much and good luck with the rest of the course.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cheers, thank you.
Thank you.
Right, that's all we have time for today, but don't forget to check out the description for the transcription of this episode and for all the links to our platforms. There you'll find a link to the England football community, and that's where you can post all your coaching questions for us to discuss on the podcast or simply just to connect with loads of wonderful coaches. We'll be back soon with another episode of Coachcast, so make sure you hit that subscribe button to make sure you don't miss out. From all of us at England Football Learning, thanks for listening.